All right, so get ready, because today we are going to deep dive straight into the minds of CEOs.
Sounds intense.
It is. We've got this new report that just came out from the Boston Consulting Group. It's called Guide to Cost and Growth 2025.
Okay, so what's so special about this report?
Well, they surveyed over 570 executives all across the world from all kinds of industries, different regions.
So we are really getting a global view then.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a real snapshot of, what's keeping these business leaders up at night. How are they planning to navigate the rest of 2025?
I mean, it's perfect timing because we're all still, I think, feeling the after effects of the crazy couple years we just had,
Oh, yeah.
with the pandemics and the supply chain chaos and AI coming onto the scene.
Yeah, and now we've got even more challenges, it feels like, coming up on the horizon.
For sure. So I think to really kick this off, we need to take a look at that economic outlook.
Yeah, paint us a picture.
Well, the report is kind of showing this sense of caution in the air,
Hmm,
especially, I think, after that U.S. election.
interesting.
Yeah, global optimism is down from last year.
Really?
Yeah, and so what's super interesting is that executives in different regions, they all have their own things that they're worried about.
Oh, right, so it's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
No, definitely not.
Okay, tell me more.
So like executives in the Asia-Pacific region, they're really concerned about their exports slowing down.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And also there's potential for conflict in that region.
Right.
And, that impacts growth. But at the same time, you look at North American and European leaders, and they are more worried about interest rates going up.
Okay.
And inflation, that's really squeezing their margins.
Yeah, everyone's got their own economic headache, it sounds like.
Yeah, it really is.
So with all this going on, all these different concerns, is there anything that unites these leaders?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Anything they all agree on?
Despite all these differences, there is one thing they all agree on. Cost management, that is #1 priority for them right now.
Even over revenue growth?
Even over revenue growth, which is pretty interesting, I think.
Yeah, that is telling.
Right.
It makes sense, though, right? I mean, when things feel so shaky, businesses want to be careful and really make sure that every dollar counts.
You would think so, but here's the thing. The report actually found that companies that don't meet their cost-saving targets,
Okay.
they actually underperform in shareholder return
Oh, really?
compared to the ones that do meet their goals
By how much are we talking here?
by an average of 9%.
9%. That's huge.
It is.
Wow. Okay. So it's not just about being cautious, it's about being really good at managing those costs.
Yeah.
So what is it that separates the winners from the losers?
Yeah, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah. How do they do it?
Well, that is the million-dollar question.
Right.
And this report digs deep into why so many companies, they struggle to actually achieve their cost-saving goals.
Okay.
And what's so interesting is it's not that they don't plan, they're just not planning for the right things.
So they've got a plan. They're just missing something.
It's a lack of the right culture, actually.
So you're saying that company culture is more important than strategy when it comes to saving money?
You could say that.
Wow. I was assumed it was all about having a really solid plan,
Yeah.
numbers, strategy.
The plan's important, but it's only half the battle. The report found that on average, companies only achieve 48% of their cost-saving goals.
48%. That's shockingly low.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the biggest reason?
The biggest reason is cultural resistance.
Okay, help me understand how culture plays such a big role in this.
Okay, so think about it this way. Even if you have the most brilliant cost-cutting strategy in the world,
Okay.
if your employees aren't on board,
Right.
if they don't understand why these changes are happening,
Okay.
and they're not motivated to actually change their own behavior,
Right.
it's going to fall flat,
So it's like trying to lose weight but having no willpower.
basically.
You can have the best diet plan in the world, but if you don't actually follow it,
Exact.
it's not going to work. So how do you actually build this cost-conscious culture?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, is it just about, telling people to turn off the lights when they leave a room?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. It's about getting everyone on the same page,
Okay.
aligned with the company's goals, and also empowering your employees.
I like that.
Right, so they're actually part of the solution.
Yeah.
And then, of course, clearly communicating why these changes are so important.
So it's not just a top-down kind of mandate. It's more like creating a sense of shared responsibility.
Exactly, exactly. And the report, it emphasizes how important leadership is in all of this.
Okay.
So executives, they need to actually walk the walk.
Right.
Model that cost-conscious behavior themselves and really create an environment where everyone understands that what they do actually matters.
Yeah, it's about leading by example, right?
Yeah.
Showing that We are all in this together.
Right.
And I'm guessing celebrating even those small wins along the way is a good thing, too.
Oh, for sure. Nobody wants to feel like they're constantly being asked to do more with less.
No, of course not.
Right. You got to celebrate those small wins, keeps the morale up and, keeps things moving forward.
Keeps that momentum going. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's really crucial to change how we think about cost management altogether.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's usually seen as this negative thing, something you have to do when times are tough, like almost a necessary evil.
I know, it's like a punishment.
Yeah, exactly.
But this report, it's arguing that we need to shift that.
Okay.
Instead of seeing it as a burden, we should be looking at it as a way to unlock future growth.
Oh, okay. I think I see where you're going with this.
Right.
So it's about freeing up resources to invest in innovation, talent development, new markets,
Exactly.
the things that actually give companies a competitive edge.
Exactly, like a financial glow up.
Yeah, I like that.
Right.
So the report, what does it say about where companies are planning to reinvest those savings?
So they're looking at things like talent development.
Okay.
They're talking about, building more resilient supply chains.
Wait, didn't we just talk about how supply chain issues are one of the biggest concerns?
Well, yeah, and that's exactly why they're investing in them now.
I see.
Right. The past few years have shown us just how fragile those global supply chains can be.
Sure.
So companies are trying to build more flexible, adaptable models, ones that can withstand future shocks.
Okay, so it's not just about cutting back. It's about being really smart about how you reinvest those savings
Right.
into things that will actually help you grow in the long run.
Exactly.
It's like using cost management as a launchpad.
Yeah. And speaking of exciting new tools, there's one more piece of this puzzle that we need to talk about. The report highlights this up-and-coming star in the world of cost management. It's called GenAI.
GenAI. What is that? Is that like AI's cooler, younger sibling?
Maybe. GenAI, it stands for generative AI. It's this type of artificial intelligence that can actually create new content, it can automate complex tasks,
Wow.
and it's taking efficiency to a whole new level.
That does sound impressive, but give me an example. How are companies actually using this to save money?
Okay, so one area where we're seeing a lot of this is customer service.
Okay.
Imagine being able to handle tons of customer inquiries, 147, without needing a massive call center.
Right.
GenAI-powered chatbots, they can answer questions, troubleshoot, and even send those complicated cases to a human agent if they need to.
It's like having an army of little virtual assistants.
It is.
That's amazing, especially for companies with limited resources.
Exactly. And it's not just about cutting costs either.
Oh.
It's about making the customer experience better.
I see.
These chatbots can provide instant support, personalized recommendations.
Okay.
They can even anticipate what the customer might need based on what they've done in the past.
That's really smart. So it's really a win-win for both business and the customers.
Yeah.
But is GenAI only being used for customer service stuff? Or is there more to it?
Oh, no, there's way more. It's being used all over, from supply chain management and marketing all the way to R&D.
Okay, so walk me through that. How is it being used for, like, supply chain stuff?
So for supply chains, AI can look at a ton of data, optimize delivery routes, predict what inventory they'll need.
Okay.
It can even identify potential problems in the supply chain before they even happen.
So it's like having a crystal ball for your business.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds incredibly valuable in today's world where things are so unpredictable.
It really is.
What about marketing? How's AI changing that?
So in marketing, GenAI is personalizing campaigns, targeting specific customers, and even coming up with content.
Content like what?
Like ad copy, social media posts, all that stuff.
Wow. So even creative roles are being impacted by AI. It's mind-blowing, but also kind of, I don't know, a little unsettling.
I get it. A lot of people feel that way. I mean, are robots going to be writing all the jingles and slogans of the future?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big question and definitely something we need to keep talking about as AI gets even more advanced. I think the important thing is to remember that GenAI, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Right.
We need to use it responsibly, ethically, and in a way that works with human skills, not against them.
Right. So it's about using AI to help us, not replace us.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about what GenAI is and why it's so powerful, but how do companies actually get started with it? How do they use it effectively?
Well, the report actually mentions that BCG has this whole framework.
For implementing GenAI?
Yeah, for implementing GenAI and for cost management in general.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Their approach is all about looking at the big picture. It's not just about slashing budgets, it's about making sure that those cost-cutting efforts actually align with the company's goals.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then building a culture that supports all of this. And then,
Yeah.
of course, using data and AI to really maximize the impact.
Okay, so it's a three-pronged approach: strategy, culture, and technology.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so that sounds pretty comprehensive.
It is.
Break it down for me a little bit. What does that actually look like when a company's trying to do this?
Well, the first step is to get really clear on your objectives.
Okay.
What are the top priorities for the company? Where are the biggest areas where you could save money?
Okay.
And then how can those savings be used to fuel future growth?
All right, so figure out what you want to achieve and then make a plan to get there.
Exactly. And then remember that cultural piece we were talking about?
Right, right.
That's super important. You got to get everyone on board, all levels of employees.
Okay.
Communicate clearly about what the goals are, why you're making changes, and what you expect to happen.
And celebrate those wins.
And celebrate those wins.
We talked about that.
Exactly. Positive reinforcement goes a long way. Okay, so we've covered the strategy, the culture. Now let's talk tech.
Okay, so how does BCG help companies actually use GenAI?
Well, they help companies figure out which AI tools and applications make the most sense for their specific needs,
Okay.
and then they help them actually implement those tools.
Okay.
It's not about just using AI for everything. It's about being smart about it.
Right, tool for the right job.
Exactly.
And making sure it actually fits into how they already work.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it. But I'm guessing this isn't something that happens overnight, right?
You're right. It's a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
And BCG, they emphasize this idea of continuous improvement.
Oh, I like that.
Right. So you're constantly checking your progress, making adjustments as you go, and always looking for new ways to do things better.
Always innovating.
Always innovating, exactly.
It's never really finished.
In a way, yeah. But it's an exciting journey. The companies that really embrace this way of thinking, that see cost management as a way to grow, they're the ones that are going to succeed in the coming years.
I like how you put that. It's like turning lemons into lemonade.
It is.
Maybe even a whole lemonade empire.
That's a great way to put it.
So this report, you mentioned it focuses on larger companies, but it feels like these ideas could apply to anyone, right?
Absolutely. Whether you're a huge corporation or a tiny startup, the basics are the same. You have to be smart with your resources, make decisions based on data, and always be looking for new ways to do things.
I love that. So before we jump into how those principles apply to everyone, let's take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll look at some specific examples of how companies are using GenAI to totally change their operations and become way more efficient. Stay tuned.
Sounds good. Okay, so where we left off, we were starting to get into this whole world of GenAI and how it's really shaking things up for companies.
It is. Trying to cut costs, boost their efficiency.
For sure. And I mentioned that 86% of executives, they're planning to invest in GenAI this year.
Yeah, that's not just like a trend that's like a full-on revolution.
It really is. And I think this report does a really good job of showing that GenAI, it's not just this far-off thing, It's happening now. Companies are using it and getting real results.
Okay, I like it. I like it. So give me some examples. What are companies actually doing with this technology?
All right, so one area where GenAI is making waves is customer service.
Okay, yeah.
So imagine this, you can handle like a flood of customer questions all day, every day.
Without a giant call center.
Exactly. And that's where these GenAI-powered chatbots come in.
Chatbots, okay.
They can answer questions, they can troubleshoot problems.
Right.
And even if it's something complicated, they can pass it on to a real person.
So it's like having a team of like really efficient virtual assistants ready to help anyone anytime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about saving money, it's also about making the whole customer experience better.
Oh, okay. How so?
So these chatbots, they can give you instant support, personalized recommendations.
Why?
They can even kind of predict what you need based on your past interactions with the company.
That's pretty cool. So it's a win-win for the businesses and the customers. But GenAI, it's not just for dealing with customers, right?
Right. It goes way beyond that.
What other parts of a business can use it?
Oh, tons of them. Supply chain management, marketing, even research and development.
Okay, so break that down for me. How is AI being used for like supply chains?
Okay, so AI can look at all this data about your supply chain and figure out the best delivery routes.
Okay.
What inventory you need to have on hand.
Right.
It can even predict disruptions like, oh, there might be a problem over here before it even happens.
So it's like having a crystal ball for your supply chain.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
That's got to be so valuable these days when things are so uncertain.
Absolutely.
What about marketing? How is GenAI changing things there?
So in marketing, GenAI is personalizing those campaigns, targeting specific groups of customers. Right.
And even generating the content for them.
What kind of content are we talking about here?
I mean, stuff like ad copy, social media posts, that kind of thing.
So it's impacting even creative roles. I mean, it's pretty amazing to see how many different ways AI is changing how businesses work.
It is.
But is there a downside? I mean, could we become too reliant on AI? What happens to human creativity and innovation?
Those are important questions, and it's definitely something we need to be talking about as AI gets more advanced.
Yeah.
But the key, I think, is finding that balance.
Okay.
Using AI to help us not replace us. Gen AI, it's a tool.
Right.
It should free up humans to focus on the stuff that we're really good at, the strategic thinking, the creativity, all that.
I like that. It's like a partnership. Human intelligence and artificial intelligence working together.
Exactly, a partnership.
Okay, so how do companies actually implement AI effectively? I mean, it sounds complicated.
It can be, but the report talks about this framework that BCG has developed.
For implementing AI. Yeah, for using it effectively, and also for managing costs overall.
Okay, tell me more about this framework.
So their whole approach is about taking a big picture view. It's not just about cutting budgets randomly. It's about making sure those cost-cutting moves line up with your overall goals for the company.
Right, that makes sense.
Then you got to build a company culture that supports all of that.
Right.
And of course, you got to use data and AI in a smart way to get the most out of it.
Right, so we're back to that three-pronged approach: strategy, culture, and technology.
Exactly.
Okay, so that sounds pretty comprehensive.
Mm-hmm.
Can you break it down for me a little bit more? What does this look like in the real world?
Well, the first step is to really clearly define your goals.
Okay.
What are the company's top priorities? What are the areas where you can save the most money?
Right.
And then how can you use those savings to actually grow the business in the future?
So figure out what you want and then make a plan to get there.
Pretty much. And don't forget that cultural piece we were talking about earlier.
All right, right.
It's so important. You got to get buy-in from everyone in the company,
Okay.
top to bottom, and be clear about the goals, why things are changing, what you expect to happen.
And celebrate the wins along the way.
Exactly. Celebrate those wins. Positive reinforcement is powerful.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked strategy, we've talked culture. Now let's get into the tech side of things.
Okay, so how does BCG help companies with this? How do they actually use GenAI?
So BCG, they help companies figure out which AI tools and applications are going to be the most useful for them.
Okay.
And then they help them actually set those tools up and make sure they're working right.
So it's about finding the right AI for the job, making sure it fits in with how they already work.
Exactly. It's not about just throwing AI at every problem. You have to be strategic about it.
Right. The right tool for the right job.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it. But even with the right tools and a good plan, I mean, implementing AI, it can't be easy, right?
But you're right. It does take time and effort. It's a journey, not a sprint. And BCG, they emphasize the importance of always trying to improve.
I like that. Continuous improvement.
Exactly. So you're always checking your progress, making adjustments along the way, and looking for ways to get even better.
So it never really ends.
In a way, no, but that's what makes it exciting.
Okay.
The companies that really embrace that idea, that see cost management as a way to grow, they're going to be the ones who succeed in the long run.
I love that idea. So this report, it talks a lot about large companies.
It does.
But these principles feel like they could be used by anyone, right?
I think so, too. Whether you're a global corporation or a tiny startup, the fundamentals are the same.
Okay.
Be smart with your resources, make decisions based on good data, and always be looking for ways to innovate.
Okay, so before we get into how these ideas apply to businesses of all sizes, let's take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll dig into specific examples of how companies are using GenAI to totally transform their operations and get way more efficient. So stay tuned. So we were talking about how those ideas about cost management and using AI, well, they're not just for the big companies.
Right, exactly.
How can smaller businesses with, maybe smaller budgets, fewer people, how can they get in on this?
That's a really good question, and I think that's where it gets really interesting. It's about finding those tools, those strategies that work for them, and starting small. Even small businesses can use AI without spending a ton of money.
Give me an example. What would that look like for like a small business owner? I'm thinking of someone who's maybe a little overwhelmed by all this AI talk.
I know, it can definitely feel overwhelming, but let's say you're running a small online store. There are AI tools out there that are affordable and can help you with things like managing your inventory,
Okay.
predicting what customers are going to want, personalizing your marketing emails, sending out those messages to people, even having chatbots to answer customer questions 24/7.
So even a small business can use those tools without having to hire a bunch of tech people.
Exactly. And the cool thing is these tools can grow as your business grows.
I like that.
You can start small and then, scale up as you need to.
So start small, be strategic, and gradually add these technologies in as you go.
That's it. Another thing that's important for smaller businesses is to focus on those quick wins. You don't have to change everything at once.
Right.
Just look for places where you can automate some tasks, become more efficient, get more insights from the data you already have.
It all comes back to that idea of continuous improvement that we were talking about.
It all connects.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how big your team is, it's about having that mindset of always wanting to improve.
Absolutely. Creating a culture where everyone feels like they can spot problems, suggest solutions, and embrace new technologies is huge. It doesn't matter how big or small the business is.
This has been such a fascinating conversation. We've talked about so much from, the global economy to Gen AI and how these ideas apply to everyone. Anything else from the report that really stood out to you? Anything you want to leave our listener with before we wrap up?
One thing that I think is so important to remember is that we're living in a time of incredible change.
Yeah.
And incredible opportunity. Things are changing so quickly in the business world, and the companies that are willing to adapt, try new things, invest in the right areas, those are the ones that are going to thrive.
I love that. A real call to action for all of us. Whether you're running a huge company or a small Etsy shop, this report has given us all a lot to think about. If you want to dig deeper into this, be sure to check out the show notes for a link to the full report. And remember, even if you're not a CEO, these principles we've been talking about, being strategic about costs, building a culture of innovation, using the power of AI, you can apply that to anything, any business, any team, any project.
Work smarter, not harder,
I like that.
and always be curious. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And to all our listeners out there, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.